The manga True Doctor is 235 chapters. The manga is about an intern that gets somehow the memories of the deceased best surgeon in the world. I have watched many medical drama TV series, and this manga is one of the best. If you are a person that is doing something difficult or learning new thing, you are going to relate it with Choi the intern. The main character name is Choi. We get to see all his failure and success on the journey of becoming the best surgeon in the world. We first meet Choi taking a person that is bleeding in the operation room. We find out that Choi is doctor, but he can't do anything in general hospital system. He is just an intern. While Choi is in the break room, he and his friends read the magazine about a man named Richard. He is a person who always updates how surgery are performed, and there won't be another doctor like him in the cardiac surgery department. Today is Choi off day. He is free to go home because his house is far away. He decides to stay his sister's house. His parents are proud that he is a doctor and they brag about him in the neighborhood. Choi thought he entered that path of a doctor like fate, but in the face of fate, only the dark reality awaits. The next morning he wakes up after sleeping 15 hours and decides to go hiking. While he was hiking, he heard a noise and decided to get close to where the noise was coming from. He sees a man laying on the ground. The man was climbing and he fall down. Choi gets close to the fallen man he sees. He is old man. The fallen man breathing is unstable, his heart is irregular, and his ribs on the chest are broken. Choi calls the emergency number and he explains the condition of the old man. Choi find out the fallen old man is doctor, and the old man tells Choi to press my liver to stop the bleeding because my liver is rupture. The old man knows he doesn't have much time. The old man asks Choi to say to him the oath of ethics. The oath of ethicist is oath all doctors say before becoming doctor. In the end of his time, the old man prayed that all his medical knowledge goes to Choi. The next day, Choi overslept. He gets to the hospital late. He gets scolding by senior doctor to make it up for being late. Choi tells the senior doctor, I will do more work. He volunteered to work in the intensive care unit. Intensive care unit takes care of critically ill patients. They provides intensive and specialized medical and nursing care, an enhanced capacity for monitoring, and multiple modalities of physiologic organ support to sustain life during a period of life-threatening organ system insufficiency. Here is where we get to know more about Choi. Choi has high standard for himself, and he is competent to know what he doesn't know. Not so long ago, Choi ran away from resident life because he was having hard time, but he was held back by professor. Choi get assigned a patient who is 45 years old. The patient had heart attack. Choi looks at the chart to find out what was done to the patient. He finds out that the patient had surgery, and Choi comes to conclusion the surgery would have better result if the surgery was performed immediately when the patient come to the hospital. Choi is shocked that he was able to come to that conclusion. Choi looks more at the chart and his eyes are drawn to the oxygen saturation. Oxygen saturated measures how much hemoglobin is bound to oxygen compared to how much hemoglobin remains unbound. In simple term, how much oxygen you're getting. In Choi mind, ideas just flow and he questions where these ideas are coming from. Choi informs the senior doctor that the patient oxygen is dropping, and the senior doctor tells Choi to remember intern job is to follow order, not to think. Choi goes back to the patient and looks at the chart more. Choi gets idea how to test if the patient oxygen is really dropping. He tests it and finds yes, the patient oxygen is dropping. A professor gets down to the intensive care unit and asks Choi and the senior doctor how the patient is doing. The senior doctor tells the professor that I saw that the patient oxygen was dropping and I run a test to see if the patient oxygen was dropping. The professor is impressed by how the patient was tested to see if the patient oxygen was dropping. The professor compliments the senior doctor. Choi doesn't care that the senior stole his idea as his. Choi is more concerned by how he was able to come up with the idea. While on break and thinking about what just happened, Choi finds out that the old man Choi tried to save but die when he was hiking was the famous Dr. Richard, the best cardiac surgeon. Choi questions what if, when the famous doctor die, all his knowledge transformed to him. To see if Choi has the memory of the famous doctor, inside the operating room, Choi asks a surgeon if he can observe the surgery. In the middle of the surgery, the surgeon asks Choi a few questions, and Choi answers them all with ease. All the people inside the operating room are shocked that an intern can answer those questions. Choi doesn't realize how difficult the questions was. He doesn't understand why people are surprised that he knows the answers. The surgeon asks Choi if this is his first time observing a surgery, and Choi answers yes, this is my first surgery. After the surgery, Choi goes to the library to see if this knowledge is from the deceased famous doctor. Choi reads the books writing by the famous doctor. Choi is surprised that he can recall the content of the book like he wrote the book. After the graduation ceremony, a doctor named Seok from John Medical Center tells Choi, "I want you to become my assistant." Choi agrees to be assistant to Dr. Seok in the John Medical Center. After finishing their first surgery, they find out that there is a patient who needs a urgent surgery. A patient with paralytic ileus. Paralytic ileus occurs when the muscle contraction that moves food through your intestines are temporarily paralyzed. Before running to the operating room, Choi asks Dr. Seok if he can learn more about the patient history. They find out that the patient had prior surgery, appendicitis surgery. Appendicitis is an inflammation of the appendix. The appendix is a finger-shaped pouch that sticks out from the colon on the right side of the belly, also called the abdomen. Choi comes to conclusion the thing that is wrong with the patient now must be synechia adhesion. Synechia adhesions are fibrous bands that form between tissues and organs, often as a result of injury during surgery. They may be thought of as internal scar tissue that connects tissues not normally connected. After they finish the surgery, Dr. Seok asks Choi if he wants to go to another hospital, Dongseong. Dongseong Medical Center is a small rural hospital with an emergency room. Dr. Seok tells Choi that the hospital is intermediate hospital that take care of emergency patient and transfers patients to another hospital where treatment is possible, and yet a lots of investment is being made in Dongseong Medical Center to becoming one of the largest hospital in Korea. If that happens, all the patient will come to Daeon Hospital. Dr. Seok suggests that maybe Choi can experience more patients than he can in Seoul Hospital. Choi agrees to go to Dong Medical Center. Choi's first day in Dong Medical Center, a 36-year-old man with a penetrating inquiry is brought inside the hospital. While the patient was working on construction site, a steel bar fell and penetrated the abdomen of the patient. Choi finds out that the 3-year resident has given the patient a hemostatic drug to stop the bleeding, but the bleeding won't stop. Choi questions himself why the hemostatic drug are not working. Choi sees that the patient's arms and legs are swollen. Choi figures that it must be compartment syndrome. Compartment syndrome happens when there's too much pressure around your muscles. The pressure restricts the flow of blood, fresh oxygen, and nutrients to your muscles and nerves. Choi thinks if the patient have compartment syndrome and the bleeding won't stop, it must mean that the patient have hemophilia. Hemophilia is a rare disorder in which the blood doesn't clot because it doesn't have enough blood clotting proteins. Choi tries many things to stop the patient bleeding with no success. The Daeon Hospital being small, they do not have plasma. Plasma is part of your blood. Plasma is a light yellow liquid. Plasma carries water, salts, and enzymes. Plasma also contains important components. These include antibodies, clotting factors to stop the bleeding. Because they didn't have plasma, they decide to transfer the patient to another hospital. While in the ambulance car, Choi must slow down the bleeding of the patient. The way Choi decides to stop the patient bleeding is to put forceps on the vessel. Vessels are arteries. Arteries carry blood pumped away from the heart to the organs. Veins. Veins return blood to the heart from the body organs. Capillaries. Capillaries tiny vessels that connect arteries and veins. Choi is successful at stopping temporarily the bleeding of the patient, and the patient is transformed to another hospital. After working a while in the Dongseong hospital, Choi is tired of the chain command of the hospital. He decides to go to medical service in Kashmir, where Pakistan and India are fighting. Choi find out that there is chain of command in the medical center of Kashmir, so he decides to leave Kashmir Medical Center and go to Samba, where there is no medical center. In other words, there is no chain of command. Choi will be the only doctor in Samba. I will stop the story here, and I will analyze the main character. There are two types of people. The first type, they can see what needs to be fixed, and then there the second type of people, they see what needs to be fixed, but they can also see the things that can go wrong. Choi is the second type. In the beginning, when unexpected things happen, Choi used to freeze, and his mind just wanders around with no aim. What it means is Choi was competent enough to see all the things that can go wrong, and Choi used to fear the unknown, and he used to take mistakes as failure. Yes, he did get better after inherit the knowledge of Dr. Richer, but still Choi had difficulties with pressure and the unknown. Real self-confidence doesn't come from shouting affirmations in the mirror. Real self-confidence comes from seeing yourself overcome difficulty and mistakes. That is the main reason why Choi joins the medical service. He wants to overcome himself by failing and succeeding over and over again. Many of Choi patients die. He is hunted by the patients he lost. The ability to recall all your mistakes, that is what makes people great. He learns that you should not aim to become perfect because that is impossible, but you should try to be close to perfect. I absolutely love this manga. I have learned many things and I recommend it. If you are a person that is dealing with imposter syndrome, the only way to overcome is to listen that voice and work on the things it tells you that you are not good at. Have a nice day and take care of yourself.